Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum to people throughout the universe. It's a blessing to be here with you all again. My name is Dustin Cron. I'm the founder of the Center for Global Muslim Life. This is the Global Muslim Film Festival, and tonight we're featuring this really beautiful film called Music of the Mystics with Tahir Qawwal, who's joining us from Ubud, Indonesia. We would like to start by thanking our sponsors. Penny Appeal, US and UK are the main sponsors of this film festival, and we really give them a lot of love and respect for coming through for us with this film to support the film festival. We also have a couple of community sponsors, the American Muslim Community Foundation based in the Bay Area and the San Diego Latino Film Festival, who've helped help us launch this film festival, this very unique festival about global Muslim life. So in opening, I think it's important that we recognize what's happening around the world today in the United States. You know, there's protests and uprisings happening around the country, and we want to send our love and peace throughout the universe and say that this, foundationally, our work that we're doing here with this film festival is about connecting people, and it's against these ideas of white supremacy that have ruined so many lives and that have hurt people around the world. And as a part of that, being that this film festival is global, of course, but I'm based here in Southern California in San Diego. And so we want to do a land recognition for the Kumeyaay people, who are the indigenous people of this land. It's important that wherever you are, if you live on this continent that indigenous people call Turtle Island, that you recognize who those indigenous people were that lived in these lands before you did, especially as Muslims. With so much violence and hate in our world, we felt that, in the Quran talks about telling stories of beauty and telling the most beautiful stories. And so when we think about Muslims in film, unfortunately, it fits within that violence and hatred, where we see stories of Muslims that fit within the tropes of Islamophobia or as westernized liberal Muslims. And that's not what we're trying to do with this festival. We want to show beauty. We want to show the true beauty of our stories. So tonight, that's what we're doing with this film. And we'll start with a clip from the film, from Music of the Mystics, as we begin.
Qawwali is a spiritual dimension of Islam.
It's the poetry, it's the Sufi message, it's the impulsive improvisational aspect, it's that Sufi message of divine love that fuels the music.
In so many ways, the Qawwal is expressing what we feel, what we cannot put into words, what we don't know how to offer.
और लोग अपने जिहड़े मसले सालां च हल नहीं हुंदे वो लम्हियां च हल हो जांदे।
हम जब भी बुजुर्गों का कोई भी कलाम गाते हैं तो उसकी कैफियत अगर होती है तो उसमें बुजुर्गों की दुआ भी होती है और बरकत भी होती है। अपने नाम की, अपनी मोहब्बत की, कि जिस मेहनत से उन्होंने अपने रब को याद किया है, जिस अंदाज से उन्होंने अपने रब को याद किया है, अपनी मेहनत से, अपनी लगन से।
असल ये सिलसिला ही दुआ का है। ये लग जाए पीर की, लग जाए माँ की, लग जाए दुआ उस्ताद की, लग जाए, ये तीन रिश्ते मुकद्दस होते हैं। ये इस दुआ की रुकावट नहीं, ये सीधी दुआ जो है वो ऊपर जाती है और कबूल होती है।
We've all come from such different places to find ourselves in this.
They saw us as Westerners, not born into their culture, not into their religion, but we came seeking something, and they saw that.
I heard them tell me, you're not a woman or a man, you're an artist.
So they create that safe space, they create that environment That's what's really captured my heart. That's captured our hearts. That's the thing that we want to share with the world.
So with that, we bring in the creator of the film, Tahir Qawwal. Thank you for joining us tonight from Indonesia. It's really a blessing to have you here. So Music of the Mystics is an 8-part series over 3 hours. And you were just telling me it has you have 20 terabytes of data that you've captured and film that you've captured around the world in India and Pakistan with these masters of Qawwal. So Tahir Qawwal is a Canadian who dedicates his life to this music, and he left his native Nova Scotia for India as a teen. It is there where he explored Indian classical music, renounced all material possessions, and dabbled in the idea of becoming a yogi before converting to Islam at the age of 17. So Tahir, thank you for joining us tonight. What can you tell us about this film and why it's so important for you to put this out here for the world?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me. The reason behind the film, I mean, most of all, we found ourselves in a Islamic culture, a Sufi culture that touched us, me and the members of my group, so profoundly that it changed our lives, changed our lifestyles, and touched our hearts. And it felt like something that was extremely important to share with the world. And so that enthusiasm, bloomed and grew into this film 20 years later.
Yeah, thank you. And I was able to watch the first episode, and one of the things we're really interested in as part of this festival is how do you convey the spiritual through film, and what it, and I think that you did that in a really beautiful way through connecting the music to the cinematography. Can you talk about what your thoughts were of how you tell a spiritual experience visually through the medium of film?
Yeah, it's a good question. Film is a very powerful medium, especially in today's era. People watch a lot of movies, and it brings the music itself to life. It's impossible to really share those atmospheres that we were in and have been in year after year, to share it to people through any medium, and through sound is one way, but when you combine and connect artfully the music itself with the atmosphere of it, the context, the wisdom of the Sufi masters and the musicians themselves, it really comes alive. So in the editing of it, being the main editor myself, it's been that of having so much beautiful material collected over 20 years and bringing it to life through sound and through wisdom, and combining all these elements to give that mystical experience without having one particular key or message or opinion to share, but just to woo people into that atmosphere that we fell so deeply in love with.
Yeah, I'm sure with a film that's so personal like this, you almost would have to have edited it, right? Because with that much footage, and you said you shot this over 20 years. Can you talk about what did it mean to you what does it mean to make a film for 20 years, to be committed to a tradition for 20 years?
Well, it drove me crazy in times, to be honest. But it initially started just, like I said, like being in those places with those people and feeling the profound meaning of it, and how we knew that it would be very valuable to most of the world that doesn't get to experience Islam, Sufism, cultural music in that way. And so from the beginning, Amina and I, and then the other members of the group, we just, were bringing video cameras, and we were already engaged, on our own tours and our own process of learning and being on pilgrimage and sitting with the masters. And then there'd be moments when it'd be like, wow, this is something so special, and just film a little something here and there. But, since we were there for 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time, that collection of footage grew. And before long, we were bringing film crews, people with drones and you could GoPros and cranes and all that stuff, and having really good field audio. So then we ended up kind of bringing it up a level, because it felt like there hadn't yet been a well-filmed documentary on Qawwali, comprehensively speaking. And you go on YouTube and you have like videos here and there, but not much of like having Qawwali in its true context, in the shrine, in the Mehfil Sama, the gathering of the Sufis, and being well filmed and having the wisdom and atmosphere behind it. So it felt like there was a very important place for it. So we decided, as time went over, to take it more and more seriously and build it into something that had a lot of integrity and a lot of meaning, and really do it right and do it justice as best we could.
Yeah, I think you did a really beautiful job, and so if people have questions, you can ask them on social media, and we'll bring those questions onto the screen for Tahir. If you want to talk to him about the film, or you have any questions about the filmmaking process or his journey, and that, I think that's a good place to go back to, right? Is I think one of the lines that's really powerful for me in the first episode is where you said that you never connected with the culture of your birth, and so you went on this spiritual journey to India and to Pakistan. Can you talk a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, I mean, to be very honest, it was, I didn't get along with my family very well, and I had a pretty abusive father, so I was always finding ways to be away from the family bubble, and to be in nature, be by myself in different ways. And that led to a lot of study in my early teens, like 13, 14, 15, studying about religion, spirituality, basically inspired to find my way and my path, and what I connected to as far as how I wanted to live my life. And I studied a lot of scripture in that time from all faiths and all religions, and it was a really powerful and formative time, really.
Yeah. So then you in the film has some beautiful shots of you in these caves. Can you talk about that experience where you went into these caves, and then how did you find these Sufi communities, these Muslim communities in Pakistan? What was your journey to that? You said you converted to Islam at 17. Can you tell us how did you go from the caves to the community and to this music?
Well, it was an interesting combination of unique ingredients there, but essentially, like you had said earlier, my first and foremost interest at that time was yogic studies and being a renunciate. So that was, I was living in Tibet and in the Himalayas in India for many, many years, and practicing that solitary spiritual practice, meditation and such, very fervently, not having any possessions, having very strict lifestyle of discipline, and being on my own for many years. And so when I came in contact with the Sufis, and did zikr with them, it was a very powerful effect on my heart, because it was a contrast to all that lonely spiritual practice, and for the first time feeling the power of like a communal spiritual practice of devotion and collective prayer was really powerful for me. And so I got initiated into the Naqshbandi silsila when I was 17 and embraced Islam. And from there was always that current of feeling the power and the beauty of the community. And still, as you know from Sufi orders, we have muraqaba and seclusion and different kinds of things that are also akin to that lonely ascetic life, the life of a darvish. So I, maintained that until, the power of that communal devotion felt like something so important, and to be able to share the wisdom that I had gained from being in solitude for so long like that. So the devotional form of music was really something that could express that and share that and be a way of even compounding the power of it by having a group of people all immersed in that ishq, in that divine love through the music, and give life to the poetry of the Sufi masters in this form. So it grew like that.
MashaAllah, that's beautiful. Abbas Muhammad is asking from Oakland, is there any one specific moment that confirmed to you that the path you were on was the path you were born to be on?
Oh, that just grew in maqams and stages and steps. But, those in the formative years, especially, before internet, and you can just look things up back in the 90s, it was that of just having to go and find things and explore for oneself. And there was, a lot of challenges and tribulations and stumbling upon on the path and all that. But yeah, there's those moments of profound connection, like doing zikr in the khanka of my peer, and then moments of like being with those masters in the shrines when they're offering their qawwali, what we call hazadi, their like offering of devotion, and feeling that atmosphere of love and surrender and connected prayer. That atmosphere that it creates felt like very yes moments. Like, this is what I want to devote my life and my heart to. And then as our group formed and grew, and we had moments of just reaching that powerful place of profound ishq through the medium, and feeling that that like the whole gathering, the Mahfil Sama, the gathering of the Sufis really blooming in that way, and feeling the power and the meaning of it. So there was a lot of moments like that in different places and with different people and different times that really affirmed that in a big way.
Yeah, that's super interesting. But I think so you actually entered directly in through the music. And then can you talk then about that path? I think one of the things that's super fascinating about this film is that Western filmmaking is always kind of focused on the story of the individual, right? And this individual hero's journey. And the beauty of this film, and maybe more communal type of storytelling and filmmaking, is that rather than placing yourself fully at the center of the film, you're really telling the story of the tradition, and you're trying to be this like champion of the tradition, champion of the community. So can you talk about what it meant for you? And you also talk in the film about how this has taken you 20 years to tell this story, to even be ready to tell this story, because it was a process of learning this tradition of Qawwali and being committed to it. Can you talk about that deep devotion to this tradition that you talk about in the film?
Yeah, well, first of all, the journey is still unfolding. I'm only 40 years old, and there's a lot to learn, a lot to explore, and a lot to share. It looks like my headphones might have gone off, so hopefully you can still hear me through there.
We can.
Can you still hear me through the screen?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, cool. Sorry about the sound quality changing there. But yeah, basically, it's when we were creating it, and I was creating the film, I didn't even have that concept of wanting it to be about us. And when I started working with film writers and directors, Not that we have any central people working with us to a large extent on the production level, but people that were in the film industry or friends that had successful films and such were saying like that personal story is very important, and every little element that we add to it involving our journey to this culture, to this music, to Sufism, to Islam, people were very affected by. So they were asking for more of that, wanting to have more of the backstory behind our like very unique journey, and that in the end of creating this film has really helped as a bridge to be able to bring people closer to something that is very distant or different. And so there's a unique thread kind of going throughout the episodes where overall it's about the masters and being able to feel and experience the tradition for oneself without having, like I said, a specific goal or intention other than for people to feel it for themselves and make their own, have their own sentiments and opinions and thoughts about it, but having our journey as a thread that comes in throughout, and how it's just unique that our group members coming from such diverse places and just to fall so completely in love and to immerse so deeply in this music really inspires the viewers to also feel that passion and that enthusiasm through our story.
So then, since you didn't, you tried to not center yourself as much as possible, I think that really comes through in the film. Can you talk about some of the masters and the footage that you captured, right? This 20 terabytes, this film library that you have now. What did you capture and what do you plan on doing with all that footage?
Oh, there's so much there. And because it's not like a directed film where we went having like a particular idea, it's just footage of real people in sincere moments. It's hard to construct that and puzzle piece it all into a congruent storyline. And that's been the biggest challenge, I think, recently of the assembly editing. And so, there's footage of, you'll see at the film, there's footage of the dargahs, the Sufi shrines where Qawwali is traditionally and originally offered. There's like all the people in their devotional practices, like praying, doing zikr, in meditation, making their offerings of flowers and incense and prayers to this lineage of saints and of teachers. There's masters being interviewed in these places, having very insightful wisdom on mysticism, spirituality, culture, social topics, Qawwali itself. And there's interviews with the masters, the Qawwal masters themselves, that talk about their history behind it, their challenges in it, their opinions of us, the future of Qawwali. And then, we've recorded so many amazing, high quality, multi-track audios of the masters themselves, masters that haven't even, are barely on YouTube and definitely not in a quality type of way recorded. So there's all that there. And then, of course, interviews with our group throughout that 20 years and our unique thoughts and experiences and stories along the journey, for which, we're piecing all this together to woo people into being able to hear the Qawwali on a deeper level and feel the meaning of it, be able to connect with the sound, the poetry, all these elements that are there in it.
So related to that, how did you piece together that puzzle? This is 20 years of footage. I can't even imagine 20 terabytes of data. Can you talk about, how long did it actually take you to put together the film once you started working on it? And what was some of the filmmaking process like?
Well, the assembly has been in the process for maybe 7 or 8 years. And, we had one of our major film editors, producers working on it, Adrian Onega, and then I was also bouncing back with the timeline, doing the assembly edit. And our writer, Ahmad, also took a crack at the assembly. And at some point, maybe 3 years ago or so, I felt like I just had to do it myself because it was our story and I knew what I wanted in it. and I had, all the, not only the backstory of it, I knew what was there in the data, and I, yeah, I guess I knew the material well, and I understood the message behind it all and how to piece it together. And I haven't been a filmmaker. I've done, all the music videos on a YouTube channel, like 250 videos or whatever, like multi-cam. But as far as like piecing together such a huge storyline, yeah, it's been so, you have it on the assembly edit and trying different things and collecting pieces of narrative from like thousands of hours of it to just have enough that tunes people into these important pieces of wisdom that are essential in the tradition, that helps to make people think and consider. And so assembling the timeline has been like that, like really having to take the time to watch and listen to the footage and piece things together. And we've made it a lot more sparse than originally expected as far as dialogue, because there's so much dialogue we could use, but it's just having that right amount that has, like I said, the most valuable seeds of wisdom, and then letting people experience it for themselves through the visuals, through the music, through the interactions and charisma of the people in the film. Yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, it's very, very difficult. And it's, like I said, it's been like 8 years in the assembly. And being in there and trying to keep it an hour and a half, like a traditional doco maximum length. Just recently, maybe 6 months ago, I decided it's just impossible, because we had so much, there was so much there to share and so much to offer. We thought of like, okay, we'll just cut some of these and just post them as YouTube videos or on our channels, on our websites and things. I was like, no, this is all part of the story. So then the idea of doing a series and having that launched, premiered, and living inside of our music school site felt like the most integral way to offer it.
Yeah, talk about that decision, because I think, first off, mashallah, it's so inspiring, because I feel like most filmmakers are like, okay, I'm going to take 6 months, or I'm going to take maybe up to a year to 2 years to make a film, maybe longer, but 7, 8 years. I mean, that's really incredible, the level of dedication to the story that you're telling. But can you talk about that decision, to go in an episodic route, and also to decide to distribute it yourself? And you can also tell everyone where they can see the full film and how you're rolling it out.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I mean, I don't know much about film distribution. If anybody has any great ideas, do send them through. But what I experienced in the film industry, like in the audio distribution industry, like we have our own record label, Tabaruk Records. Tabaruk is like a divine gift in Sufi culture. And I'd, been producing our music. We have 14 albums, and then music of our masters. So we're producing our masters' music and releasing CDs and LPs and singles and records over the years through our label. Because it costs so much to have like a production company doing it, and this is, a very niche genre, and especially, that it's Indian and Pakistani music. In their culture these days, it's not typical to go out and buy an album or pay for a download. It's, people's ripping and burning and ripping endlessly and reposting, and that's just the way it is. So it felt important to find a way for which it could keep its integrity and not just be like passed around in that way flippantly. And just like in the music industry, like if like we're all over iTunes and Spotify and all the albums we've published, a lot of them, aside from the records themselves, it's, the artist gets such a tiny amount of what comes in from profits, like a foolishly tiny amount. I think it's like something like for 500 streams on Spotify, like the artist gets $1. So to be able to make a living, or to even have the budget to put back into creating another album, is impossible in that way, unless one is like a very, very famous pop singer or group. So learning that in the audio industry, you wanted to find something different for the video. And as I've seen, with, Amazon and Netflix and Google Play and all that, it's the same, where like, for one thing, you have to give your rights up, and they want to modify it in ways. and have ownership to it on one level or another, which I don't want to sacrifice the integrity of what we're doing. And two, it's also like very hard to get it up on those mediums. There's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of like waiting for years, and a lot of pitching and all that stuff that I have no patience for 20 years in. And then, yeah, our music school site, the Sama School of Music, is like our site of education around what we do. So there's singing courses, harmonium courses, raga, all the different things that make up this music that our students are studying online through the courses. So it's like an online university. So we felt like just recently that it was the best place to have the film because it's educational, and that's where a lot of the traffic is going for people that really want to study and really want to learn, versus just like flippantly watch things on Netflix or YouTube and then have really harsh judgments about it from their living rooms. Like have a place for it where for people that really are interested in this tradition, really interested in this music and everything that goes with it, like a community centered platform like that. So the Sama School of Music.com, Sama School of Music is where it lives, and Music of the Mystics is the product name in there in 8 episodes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, and that's one of the things we're trying to figure out with this film festival. Also, is this idea of a global Muslim film markets, that you have all these segmented film markets around the world, but maybe the Muslim market is taken less serious. So how do we really champion this and show that people will consume each other's content and really care about the diverse stories from Muslims around the world and diverse spiritual traditions around the world. So inshallah, this is just the beginning for us, but that's something we really want to champion. So I think a couple more questions, and then we have one from online. As someone, you started this journey, like you said, 20 years ago. One of the series that we have for the Center for Global Muslim Life is about a spiritual journey. And I've been talking about my own spiritual journey going into, people always ask you that question, why did you convert? And it's such an impossible question to answer. So really going deeply into the layers of the thing. And I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you, if you were to talk to yourself, or talk to those who are on the spiritual path, 20 years ago, what advice would you give to yourself?
Well, the first advice I would give to myself is, say if I was, on that path, like, and I was 16 or whatever, the first advice would be not to take advice from me when I'm 40, because I was already, in a very uniquely inspired and daring time in my life. So I look back on it also with a lot of respect. But I think the most essential thing is just that, following one's heart and being daring enough to seek and to explore and to be able to, confront our, narrative of belief systems, or what is possible, what isn't possible, and to find out for ourselves, the meaning we find in life, the meaning of Islam, and find the community that we resonate with, so that we can share ideas and have opportunities to learn from the elders, learn from the masters, have a place to bring our struggles and challenges, have a place where we can serve a community and offer whatever we have, whether it's monetary wealth or time or energy, all these things. I think that's important. And, today, in today's age, especially in the West, there's this thing of like having a peer or having a guru is like not necessary, because it's all, we can find our own way on Google or whatever. But it's a beautiful process, especially when one's young and we are very, hard-headed and stubborn in ways about what we think we believe at that time. It's also a beautiful time if one can, surrender some of that concept about what is what, and be able to receive, like I said, the wisdom from elders and masters that can help us on our journey and find different ways to confront whatever challenges we go through as people, socially and spiritually and emotionally and all that. I think that's been an essential thing for me, and I really give a lot of respect to my peer, my master, who has helped guide me, and all of these great masters, especially of the East, that have taken the time to sit with me and help me understand a different perspective on spirituality, on Islam, on life, on all these things. So I've learned a lot, and I really encourage that, even though it's challenging in this time because of what the modern era is. I really encourage that for the youth of today.
And we live in a moment of, I believe, great transformation. And I think hopefully it's also a moment where young people and people around the world are asking those hard questions about, you know, the materialism that's kind of collapsing around us, and these capitalistic systems and these things that are transforming. And the way that I even talk about my own journey is a process of decolonization, but it's a decolonization of the heart that needs to take place for us truly to be transformed. And someone like yourself who's also been on this spiritual path for 20 years knows that what I was then, who I was then, I agree with you. We should give a lot of love to who we were then, how brave we were, and the ability to walk down that path, but also to know that what I know now mostly has to do with learning that has happened in my heart and not in my mind, right? And that's a big shift for, I think, a lot of Westernized people.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said.
Yeah, so there's a question about your music. Thank you. There's a question about your music. Your latest album, Muraqaba, was recorded at the studio of Chris Martin of Coldplay. Could you share your reflections about his interest in the Qawwali and Sufi tradition? Thank you, Shafiq from Kuala Lumpur.
Assalamu alaikum, Shafiq. Bye. Thanks for the question. Yeah, I think people in India, especially, and also in Pakistan and the East, just love Coldplay. And I never knew who Coldplay was, because I've been so into the Indian classical and Pakistani Qawwali tradition. You know, I listen when I have free time. I'm listening to recordings from the 50s and 60s and all of the heavy hitter masters. So I'm not very up on Western culture and music. And it's funny to hear it from the opposite side, like being in India and people listening to Coldplay or hear it on the radio. And anyway, so we had a big performance in Los Angeles. I think it was 4 years ago, and it was hosted by a Sikh man, Punjabi. And so, as is typical, there was a good mix of like Pakistani and Indian and Westerners and all that, which is really special. And somebody was like, the host was like, "Oh, Chris Martin is coming to your show tonight," you know, because LA, so things happen like that over there sometimes. And I was like, "Who's Chris Martin?" He's like, he's the leader of Coldplay. I'm like, what's Coldplay? And he's like, never mind. And then so there was, you know, people go into must sometimes at the Qawwali gatherings, where they start going into trance, and it becomes quite a fervent experience. And you know, there was somebody going really hardcore into trance and really feeling it. And then afterwards, my group was like, "Oh my God, that was Chris Martin that was going into trance," and all that was happening. And I was like, "Oh, who's Chris Martin?" Anyway, so my group was like, "Oh, Coldplay is like the most famous music group of today." And they looked it up online. I was like, "See, this is the most famous." I was like, "Oh, cool, whatever." And so then he called me a few days later and was like, "Tahir, I'm crazy about your music." And we had been at that time screening the trailer and some of the shorts from the film, like the tribute to Ustad Amjad Sabri and Abida Parveen and all those different things, because we were performing in a lot of theaters, as we do. And so he was really moved by it. He's like, "I want to help you support this film." So he helped donate probably what ended up being about 20% of the budget behind the film. So it was extremely helpful, and we've, you know, created a relationship since then. And he was also really into Ustad Amjad Sabri, and so he was really sad when Ustad Amjad Sabri Shaheed was assassinated in Pakistan a couple of years ago or more. And they even Coldplay did a tribute to this Qawwali legend, the son of Ghulam Farid Sabri of the Sabri brothers, which are like, you know, the second most well-loved Qawwali ensemble after Ustad Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. And anyway, so yeah, the relationship developed, and we did some events at his house in LA and all this kind of stuff. But it was beautiful to see his connection, because in his personal life, I think as somebody that's really, really famous and has to be this and has to do that and has to be somebody for a lot of people, there was some really challenging times. And in one of those times, not to get too specific and personal, when he was struggling, the poetry of Mevlana Rumi had helped him out of it and helped to feel the inspiration and the warmth in his heart and all that. So he feels like a debt to the tradition in that way. And from Maulana Rumi's, explored and heard Qawwali and read Hafiz and all that kind of stuff. So we've had that kind of relationship of sharing, our spiritual journey and things like that. So it was, yeah, once again, big gratitude to Chris Martin, because without him, I think the film would not be released yet.
It's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing. I think, yeah, and that's the reality of the film world, right? Is that everybody has to find kind of their patrons to keep the work going, and especially in these times where there's such difficult times for artists, where we still need people to support film, support this work, and I think as we close, we wanted to reflect. You're in Ubud, the great city of seekers. How are things there? How are you doing? How is your family in the midst of this new global reality?
Oh, it's been really good. I feel very blessed to be here. And like you said, as an artist, we have to work a lot. And as a performing artist, to survive, for one thing, to be a Qawwali singer at this level, not that I'm a master to any degree, but it requires devoting one's life to it, which means like it has to be your daily practice and your form of income. And yeah, I support my family through it. And so it's been a lot of years of touring a lot. Like we'll do 80 shows a year or so, and be in 15, 20 countries each year touring. So there's always, the next booking to the next tour, to the next booking, to the next tour. And so it's pretty ceaseless to be able to have any level of sustainable income for my group. And so we were about to do a tour here in Indonesia, which was followed by a tour of Australia, which was followed by a tour of Europe, and then the States, which is kind of typical for us. And so I was here already preparing things for the tour when the lockdown happened. So I've been stuck here with my family, but it's been an amazing blessing to be able to spend a lot more time with my family, not be tired from all of the jet lag and incessant flights, be able to have like our daily practice be undisturbed by all of that, and have more time with my daughter and my family. It's been really precious. And it's also given me the opportunity to actually finish the film, because it takes so many hours to do it at this scale and at this level. So yeah, really blessed to be here and really honored to be still have something very meaningful and very important to be able to share. And like you said, supporting of the arts is something that's really hard in today's era. Hence, having to tour and just perform live shows constantly, because just even having all those albums published, it's not a way that one can sustain any level of lifestyle in this current age. And it's the same with film. Like everybody just wants to they have their Netflix subscription and watch something for free or watch something on YouTube for free. And I think for the first time I was looking at some comments under our Qawwali film trailer on Facebook, and there's like 1.5 million views on that, and like thousands of comments. So I was like, I'll look at a few, because I had an interview yesterday too. And yeah, it's really sad to see people being like, oh, this should just be free for everyone. And they don't know that, when you travel so far to be with these great masters, to be able to capture the content the best possible. It's like, for one, you have to pay to get there and to exist there. And we have to offer something back to those masters. It's not just like everything for free when it comes to music. It's so important. It's such an important part of everybody's life, the power of this sacred music especially. So it's been important to be able to go there and offer something to all these masters as we were filming them and such. So like you said, supporting the arts, and especially when there's, you know, there's entertainment in this film, the storyline and all that is interesting and entertaining and engaging, and I guess you can binge watch on your couch or whatever, but also being able to support the things that have an important meaning for our culture, for the cultures of the world. Supporting that kind of art, I really encourage people. And if it's $2, if it's $10, it's, you know, it's so worth it, because each of those dollars goes towards the person's endeavors and their intentions. And yeah, support it.
And I don't think a lot of people fully understand like the model that Netflix even is using, right? Netflix realistically is $1 billion they've taken billions of dollars of venture capital debt to even be able to produce the level of content they're creating. And maybe that's a sustainable model for the future. Maybe it's not. The same with these big tech corporations in the world. Will they even be able to survive what's coming? And so I think that we have to get back to paying for music and for art. And what are people turning to in these times? They're turning to the arts for, you know, for healing and for, you know, this time of great stress. We're all watching film and we're all listening to music and we're all, you know, finding a way. And alhamdulillah, for us as Muslims, we had Ramadan, but we're finding ways to connect, to be able to keep ourselves sane. And those people who can't, especially like in the United States, there's a lot of people that just aren't spiritually well in the midst of this because they don't know what to do without their daily dunya. And so yeah, thank you for all of your work. And really, it's an honor to speak to you. I'll give Shafiq one more shout out. He wanted to say, Wa alaikum salam, Tahir. Thank you for sharing that beautiful story. So yeah, and check. I'll put up the banner again for the film. Again, it's at samaschoolofmusic.com, and I really encourage everyone to buy it. Again, to spend money on the arts. Part of this film festival, you know, we have different people with different distribution. Like on this coming Friday, we'll have a world premiere of a film that hasn't been shown before. It's really it's actually a comedy film. It's really an interesting film. We have documentaries like we're showing tomorrow with this documentary about Khabib Nurmagomedov that was already on YouTube, so we can screen the full film because that's the way the person is making money, is they're making money off of the YouTube algorithm, and the film has been watched millions of times on YouTube. But you know, you all decided to have your film intentionally on your own platform to share it that way with the world and control, you know, your vision and how people consume it. And I think especially, you know, I'm really interested in what you'll do, you know, how you build out that archive, because you talk about that there'll be more coming beyond the 8 episodes. What are your ideas there for how you really build out and preserve this tradition that you've been so committed to with all the footage that you have?
Yeah, beyond taking some time to get some psychotherapy for having to, you know, tackle on such a big life project, I think, yeah, there'll be just that continuation. You know, we have our nonprofit, Tabarruk Arts, our record label, Tabarruk Records, our online school, Sama School of Music. So we're creating these communities and these bridges for people to be able to learn and have like a very high standard of, like I said before, production on all these levels, so that there's a community bridge, a community outlet for people to interact that are really interested in this art, in Islam, in Sufism, and in the Pakistani Indian music tradition that supports it. As you know, the Islam came from this music in India and Pakistan, in the subcontinent, almost 1,000 years ago. The Khajigan, like the grand masters that came after Hazrat Data Ganja Baksh Ali Hajweri, as you probably know, there's like Khaja Muinuddin Chishti, Khaja Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki, Baba Farid Shakar Ganj Damatul Ali, and this whole stream of saints, and they brought Islam to the Indian subcontinent through Sama, through the Khankas, through the Mehfil Sama, the gathering of the Sufis being in devotion together, and that's where Qawwali was created by Hazrat Amir Khusro. So it's this unique offering and bridge that Islam came to the Indian subcontinent through this. So it's something that's existed for so long, and people of those traditions even though there's, you know, a big effect by like the right-wing kind of Saudi Islam that's making it hard for people to keep their culture and respect their own culture. It's making it hard. So it's important to have this kind of very pure kind of offering that is done with a lot of intention, a lot of respect for people that who really want to be there. And you know, we have a whole scholarship program too. So there's sometimes people like, oh, I can't take your singing class, or I can't watch the film series because I live in a little village in Hoshiarpur or whatever. And so then they'll just message us, and then you get to hear all these really unique stories. But when we hear that enthusiasm and honest passion that people have to be part of this movement in this community, that yes, it's going to be going for decades to come, and it's growing in beautiful ways, that everybody is invited to it. And it's also a great change from people just, you know, trolling on the internet and saying like, music is haram, or this should be for free, you know, all that kind of stuff that all of us as filmmakers or as artists or as anybody see all the time. So yeah, the platform will grow, and I think it will be revealed as we go.
Yeah, and I mean, I can imagine it being in museums around the world, right? This type of with the level of photography and footage and just beauty of telling the story of this tradition. Yeah, may Allah continue to give you success and tawfiq in your work and in the ability to reach people around the world. So yeah, it's really beautiful. We wanted to thank you again for taking the time and for being with us. And we hope that people are able to see the film. Again, it's at the samaschoolofmusic.com, where you can find Music of the Mystics. We have, four more weekends after this one. So for the Global Muslim Film Festival, you can find us at bit.ly/Muslim Film. We're on our website, globalmuslimlife.com. And much love to you, Tahir. Any final words or prayers you have for the world in these times?
Well, you know, we've, like you said before, as Muslims, we do Ramadan, or as a Sufi, we've done seclusion, we've done fasts, we've done vigils of staying up all night doing namaz and zikr, and it's a blessed time to be able to call upon that strength that we gained from those times, and you know, where they were suggested by our peer or by our deen or by our own accord. Now that we're forced into this situation of having to be on our own or be stuck in one place, it's a time to remember all those Sufi spiritual powers, or whatever you want to call them, to be able to fortify ourselves, to be able to relate in a healthy way with our family and with ourselves. And for people that, you know, maybe necessarily haven't done that, where they haven't fasted, they haven't been restricted from being able to do this and do that, or go online, or, you know, it's the time that we can offer that support to those people. You know, if we have worked in that arena ourselves, it's important that as Muslims we take the time and offer our energy, zakat, to the people that need it, whether it's through food or through that spiritual support, like you were saying. And this is our offering, this film and our school and everything that goes with it, our platform. But I encourage, you know, everyone out there that has taken the time to do their spiritual studies, their practices, to be in the company of great wisdom from their sheikh or their guru or whatever, to be able to take some time every day to offer that out the best they can in a way of supporting the greater community in times of challenge. So that's just a little note of encouragement. And of course, thank you so much for having me on this platform. It's a blessing to be able to share what I do, and it's a beautiful sign of respect to be offered this place and all of your ears to hear our story and our work in this field. So full shukriya, shukran, from the heart, a lot of love and respect and appreciation.
Yeah, thank you so much, and love and blessings to everyone around the world. And inshallah, check out Tahir in the film, and check out Tahir on social media and on Instagram and Fana Fi Allah. You know, there's some really cute videos with his daughter singing as well on the Instagram. So mashallah, thank you, Tahir, and we hope to see you again. And best of luck with the film, and we can't wait to see all 3 hours, inshallah. Maybe we can bring you back next year and do another screening wherever this takes place in the world, and we can discuss the the response to the film, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Khuda Hafiz.
Okay.